Is it possible that you had a few drinks the night before and you just forgot that you made that post? Is there any possibility
No
of
chance.
that?
Absolutely no chance. A lot of people say, why don't you just, it wasn't that bad anyway. Why don't you just admit it? Why don't you just embrace it? Well, I would if I had done it, but I can't.
So that was someone from TalkSport briefing the Express
But the
newspaper.
way that, look at how they've described Talk there. It makes it sound as if it's some kind of white supremacist organisation. I don't feel very comfortable about handing my phone to you because I also wanted to give it to their lawyers.
Mike Graham. Mike Graham. 29 days.
Do you know, I didn't know it was 29 days.
Has it been the longest 29 days of your life?
It has. It really has.
Hard?
Very hard. Very stressful. I have to say, when the call finally came in week 4 of the sort of torture that they were putting me through, it was a relief, because when you don't know, you can't really make a plan. You can't really do anything. You kind of wake up with it. Knot in the pit of your stomach. You don't really know what's happening. I couldn't really concentrate on anything. And of course, I really missed being on the air. So thank you very much for allowing me back on. This is like manna from heaven to me because it's what I do. I was with my family at the weekend and I was ranting and raving about something and they were like, you need to get back on the radio.
I'm like, shut up, Dad.
Yeah, you're not on the radio now. But so listen, it's been cathartic. It's been incredible. I'm going to tell you the story over the next hour and a half or so. Parts of which have not yet been revealed because, the way that the story broke in the end was kind of one-sided, really. I did the decent thing. I put out a statement saying, I've had a great time at News UK, which I have, and I certainly don't want to enter into some kind of bitter, ridiculous war with them. But there are a couple of things that I need to straighten out.
Good. Well, look, I think what's really important, actually, Mike, is for us to go back.
Yeah.
And go back to the evening of Sunday, October the 19th, when your life would end up changing forever and your 4-decade-long mainstream media career would be brought to an end. So you were at the Battle of Ideas.
I was.
With Kevin O'Sullivan, who is your co-presenter of your independent podcast, The Thought Police, but also a colleague at Talk.
Yeah.
And the suggestion was that after that, you had posted something to your Facebook page. But can you just explain to me, because a lot of people, Mike, have been saying, oh, come on, Mike, you just got hammered at the Battle of Ideas. You were on the white. Like, what actually did happen that day? Yeah,
well, we did the show. We went for a couple of drinks afterwards and I went home, very early at sort of 5 or 6 o'clock, And so I've already said that I didn't post it. I've already made that statement when I was asked to make it actually by News on the following day. And I didn't see the post at all because I don't generally use Facebook an awful lot. It tends to be...
And this is the post in case people didn't see it.
Okay.
Compare and contrast. Tell me we're not fucked by multicultural bollocks. Why are we surrounded by non-white people? Just fuck off. So you had no idea that post had been made on your Facebook? I
had no idea.
Until when?
Until the next morning. When I was live on the show, and I started getting a couple of messages from people saying, have you seen this? And I had a quick look at it. And you know what it's like it's like somebody saying to you while you're on the show, can you just check this out? So, went to an advert break, had a look and went, crikey, I wonder what that is, and just deleted it immediately. And really didn't think any more of it because it was about 7 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And finished the show and went home, basically, thinking that would be the end of it because I thought, I didn't even really look at when it was posted. I didn't really understand why it was there. I certainly didn't recognize the picture. There were 2 pictures, didn't recognize the train picture. And I just thought something very weird has gone on. And I knew that in the past, people had said to me that they've had their Facebook accounts accessed. And so,
And Russell Quirk said a week before this post, your phone had been stolen. Is that true?
No, that's not true. Not my phone. My phone was stolen the previous year in September of 24. What had happened, though, to me was that the back window of my car had been smashed in while it was parked in an NCP car park around the back of London Bridge, around the back of Guy's Hospital, which I thought was a bit unusual because not least because they didn't take anything. They took an old jacket which was in the back of the car. There was a case of wine. Now, I realise that not everybody's a connoisseur of these things, so maybe they didn't want the wine. Or you'd think they would have taken like one bottle of it or something, but they just smashed the back window and took this old jacket, which I've literally had since about the 1980s, which I used to keep there because I would put it on if it was really cold at the beach when I was walking the dog. And I thought that was curious. And I mentioned it to a couple of people at News, and they didn't seem to be that bothered, you know?
Because I'm just trying to understand, is it possible that this was part of a campaign against you? I mean, if you look at this post from Charlotte Gill, the brilliant right-wing commentator online, and she said, Mike Graham does not speak like this. Also, this account below, used in the article as some sort of proof Mike did it, is a far-left account. And the hacker absolutely could have used the picture Mike just posted on Twitter moments beforehand. People do get hacked. So she seems to be suggesting, Mike, Charlotte Gill, that this could have been a hard left campaign to get you cancelled. Do you think there's any truth
I think there
to
are
that?
plenty of people out there who really don't like what I do. I was one of the only people who was consistently, every single day, sticking it to Keir Starmer and this useless Labour government, as they are being proved to be with every day that gets closer to Christmas. You know, I was the first person to say back in summer of last year that he won't last the pace. He won't go all the way to 2027 or 2029 even. And it looks that that's going to turn out to be true, because it looks like Rachel Reeves is going to fall, he's going to fall. So there were, I mean, I've asked myself if there's some kind of involvement politically. I mean, I just don't know. But I mean, certainly there are plenty of left-wingers who absolutely hate my guts, and we'll talk more about them later.
Have you had any leads, like any idea of who might have wanted to do this to see you cancelled?
Not really, because it could be, it's literally anybody. I mean, look at what's happened today, for example. There's been a massive sort of internet outage, which took half of the internet down. There was another one just a few weeks ago. I mean, clearly, I've had a lot of people saying, oh, of course you weren't hacked. If you were, you'd be able to prove it. Oh, really? Well, you can't prove who hacked Jaguar Land Rover. You don't know who hacked anyone. I mean, they don't necessarily leave a footprint, these people, So
what about the people who say, Mike, okay, you forgot that you had posted that. Is it possible, and I have to ask the question, is it possible that you had a few drinks the night before and you just forgot that you made that post? Is there any possibility of
chance.
that?
Absolutely no chance.
Because that was something I believe some of your colleagues wanted you to do, sort of hold your hands up and say, look, I this was a mistake, and I was drinking too much, and you were very offended by that.
Absolutely, because I've been in these kinds of situations before. There was a big to-do with James O'Brien, who tried to sue me.
Yes.
Once when I called him a pedo apologist, right? But he didn't realise there wasn't a comma between the two words. So in fact, there was no case to answer. But obviously, it caused a bit of a furore because it was trending on Twitter for like an entire weekend, and millions of people joined in. And of course, at that point, you realise, the people who like James O'Brien are going to pile in, and the people who like me are going to defend me. And there's been a couple of earlier episodes as well with Liverpool Football Club, with Celtic, and I'd always held my hands up and gone, look, I made a mistake, sorry.
So if you posted this, you would have admitted that you posted it?
Of course.
And you don't agree with the sentiments of the post?
No, I don't actually. I mean, a lot of people say, why don't you just, it wasn't that bad anyway. Why don't you just admit it? Why don't you just embrace it? Well, I would if I had done it, but I can't.
Because, for example, Father Calvin Robinson came on this show.
I saw.
And said he didn't think there was anything wrong with the post. He didn't think that the post was abhorrent. And he does believe that as a white English native, you do have a right to discuss why you are a minority in the biggest city
to be honest, I mean,
in the country.
To be honest, I've said an awful lot of things similar to that on the air, and nobody's ever objected to it. I've talked about areas of London which you don't see any white people in. When you go to Tower Hamlets, for example, we know about what happened in Birmingham with Aston Villa and the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans who were told, we can't guarantee your safety in a city like Birmingham because there's so many Muslims in there who don't like Jews. This has been an ongoing conversation that we've been having.
So if you had posted it, you would have held your hands up and said, yep, this is something I believe, bring it on. Okay, so then that Monday morning, you still broadcast. So you go through the whole 4 hours, and this is just what happened on that day. Okay, half of you watching this are not subscribed to Dan Wootton Outspoken, and the best way you can support what we do is by hitting that subscribe button. It is completely free, and turn on the notification bell to be alerted to our new episodes.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It is coming up to 3 minutes past 6. It is Monday morning, the 20th of October. Julia Hartley Brewer here. Very good morning.
We're not down. We're going.
We're still going. Yeah, it's called radio. It's just
wind it up.
Right.
And you come off air, Mike, and post on X. On Sunday night, my Facebook was accessed and a vile message was posted on my page without my knowledge. It contained words that I would never write and an opinion I don't share. As soon as I found out, I immediately deleted the post and have taken steps to ensure my cybersecurity is enhanced. Obviously, I am mortified that such a post could have gone out in my name and am now attempting to find out how it could have happened. I am equally very sorry for the distress it has caused to anyone. Did you write that, or did someone make you write that?
I wrote it, but it was an agreed kind of, tone, shall we say.
Sort of the hostage video apology. We've all been there, Mike.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was asked to do it on the basis, and I posted it on Facebook as well. I was asked to do it because that was thought at the time would sort of take the heat out of it, right?
Which is what people always say, and it never does.
It didn't.
It never helps.
It really didn't.
It makes it worse, actually. Because what maybe you didn't know at the time, although I'm interested to find out, there had been this campaign with Talk Sport. Now, a lot of people might think, you were a star of Talk Sport, right?
Yeah, very much so.
And Talk Sport used to be an anti-woke station. But in recent years, under the ownership of News UK, Talk Sport, and I remember, by the way, when I was at Talk in 2020, our two stations went completely in the opposite directions over the whole Black Lives Matter thing.
Very much.
We were speaking out against the madness on Talk Radio at the time. On Talk Sport, they were going mad.
Sorry, and I was going to say, and they were kind of, we were saying how ridiculous it was to take the knee, and they were celebrating it.
They loved it.
Yeah.
They loved it. And there's a presenter there, black presenter, called Aid Aladipo. And he had been part of the Civil War, and for a long time, Talk Sport presenters and staff had been unhappy with your broadcasting on Talk. And so he used this as an opportunity and posted on X just been sent that now deleted Instagram post from Mike Graham, because I think it did go up on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
I usually hold my tongue with most of the racist nonsense I see on social media, but this is beyond vile and unacceptable, and then in uppercase, from someone in the same building as me, same floor. He simply has to be taken off the air immediately by Talk TV. Horrible man. And of course, they did exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
You were immediately taken off air, and I believe it was this post on X which started the ball rolling on that. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right, yeah.
So who is this guy? Do you know him?
I have no
Have you
idea
met him?
who he is. I've never met him. I've never seen him. And I find it quite upsetting, actually, and quite honestly, incredibly difficult to believe that there is this kind of underbelly of people at TalkSport who hate me, because you know what that floor's like. I walked in every single morning at just before 5 o'clock. And I would say good morning to everybody. I never got the sense that people didn't like me. I didn't get the sense that there was any kind of, I don't know, people shrinking away from not looking at me or not, being happy to see me. We had a pretty good working relationship. I never encountered.
But this has been briefed from TalkSport. Let me just read you the Express's reporting on this. They actually described it as a civil war, Mike. And this was a source from TalkSport after that post had gone up, saying it's like civil war has broken out on the shop floor. What the public don't understand is that TalkSport and Talk Radio are very different channels in the same building on the same floor. At Sport, we have people of all different colours working alongside each other peacefully. We're one big happy team, and the bosses at News UK know that. But at Talk Radio, their agenda and output is highly charged to make migrants and minorities feel like the enemy. The fact that Mike Graham can post some of the trash he does normally and nobody in senior management has told him off before is a disgrace, but his Facebook post is the final straw. So that was someone from TalkSport briefing the Express
But the
newspaper.
way that, look at how they've described Talk there. It makes it sound as if it's some kind of white supremacist organisation. We had a very mixed group of people there. Yes, on air there weren't that many members of the ethnic minorities. There had been. But, we've got plenty of guests who are not white. We've got plenty of people working behind the scenes who are not white. And they were all very happy to do so. It wasn't, it was not like that. And so I think there's somebody at TalkSport there with an agenda, maybe, speaking for a very small number of people.
But as far as you were aware, you didn't have any personal...
None at all.
beef with any of the
No.
top sport? Had they ever approached you?
Not once. In fact, quite the opposite. I mean, I got on very well with all of them. You know, there was always, you know, because you'd see them by the coffee machine, or you'd see them on the way out, or, you know, sometimes even I'd be out for drinks. People would have leaving dues. You know, there was never
So you had no idea that this was going on?
Absolutely none.
Then, in terms of the actual logistics of the post, Mike, a couple of lefties went viral. And I just wanted to get you to respond, because I think it's an important part of the story. So Henry Morris posted, "Impressive that the hacker used the picture you just posted on Twitter moments beforehand." And someone called Matthew Leggett said they must have also accessed your phone and iCloud, since the two images of Churchill and Big Ben are different and were snapped seconds apart. Do you know what the answer is to that?
I
Did
spoke
they access that as well?
One of the things I'll describe later probably is that one of the first things I did was I got in touch with a cybersecurity.
No, tell me now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got in touch with a cybersecurity guy because I thought, well, if I've been hacked, I need to know what that means.
100%.
And I need to know exactly what happens next and what I do. And we get into the picture in a minute, but he basically said to me, he said, "You're a very high risk individual." He said, "You've got a very high profile. You've got a public platform. You say controversial things. Your sort of internet access, your phones, your iPads, all of your devices should have been protected to the max."
And they were.
And they were not. And he was astonished. He said, "I can't believe that, you know, that the company would let you walk around with a phone that's unprotected." Yeah. I didn't have any two-factor identification. I didn't even know about that. I didn't know how to get any kind of... I mean, he for me, brought in a sort of anti-malware piece of software and put it on everything I had. And he said, "I can't believe you haven't got this." I said, "How have you not got this?" And I'm like, well, I just never really thought about it. You know, it's not something I'm not technically particularly savvy. I mean, I can just about, you know, now that I'm in the Substack world, I still can't even work out how to get onto my own Substack and do anything. Do you know what I mean? I'm like kind of like, you know, an idiot when it comes to that stuff. I know how to tweet. I know how to put things on Facebook, but I didn't know about all this two-step
And did
stuff.
they say to you, "We think you've been hacked"? The cybersecurity expert.
Yes.
And then how were you told, "Mike, you're not going on air
Right.
tomorrow morning, and we want you to provide us with your phone"? How were you told that was
So
happening?
I was asked to go to a meeting on the Tuesday with the head of HR.
Knowing that you weren't going to be on air that day?
No. Oh, sorry. Yes. I guess. So I'd been told on the Monday. You know, I don't think the words were, "We don't think it's a good idea to put you on the air tomorrow."
It's just temporary.
Yeah. And I'd said, "Fine. Okay, I understand." And then I was asked to go into a meeting on the Tuesday, at which a whole bunch of things happened, which again I'll get into. And I was told, "You're not suspended, but we want you to take some leave," effectively. And I said, "Well, how long do you think?" And they said, "About a week," something like that. And then they asked to look at my phone, which I let them do, you know, because this is the other part about me saying that, you know, it's wrong for them to say that I didn't cooperate with the investigation, because I did.
So you handed your phone over to the HR representative in the meeting?
I let them look at it while we were sitting there. They went into my Facebook activity log, saw that there was nothing there, looked at my picture log, saw that that picture from the tube train wasn't there. And that was the end of that.
So you didn't even take that picture on the tube?
No.
So, and you don't remember being in that carriage or anything like that?
I did take the tube that night. I take the tube home because it's the quickest way to get home.
Yeah, but that particular picture, there's no evidence that you ever took that picture. It's not on your phone.
No.
It's not. Okay, fascinating.
No.
Fascinating.
Because again, I'll tell you what we later did. But so at that point, they said, "We might want to look at your phone more forensically." Mm-hmm. And again, I didn't really understand what that meant. Mm-hmm. And I said, "What does that mean?" And they said, "Well, we'd like to take your phone and your iPad overnight, and we'll give you another phone so that you've still got a phone." And I said, "Well, why would you want to do that?" And they said, "Well, because we need it to mirror it, to basically take a copy of everything that's on the phone so that we can investigate further, so that we can prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that, you know, that what you say happened actually happened." And I said, "Well, what if you can't prove that? Because it might not be possible. Some things are not provable." And so I just said, "Look, I don't feel very comfortable about that. I don't feel very comfortable about handing my phone to you because they also wanted to give it to their lawyers.
And this is your personal phone. It's not a company phone.
It's not
right?
a company phone. It's my personal phone. It's my personal iPad.
And you also use it for all your journalism.
Yeah, for everything. I mean, I've basically. I mean, when I looked back at what I had in my phone, I mean, I think I got my first iPhone in 2004. There are pictures on there from 2004, pictures of my kids, pictures of my dog, all sorts of stuff. There's all kinds of communications. I had 303,000 WhatsApp messages.
And that includes, my belief, based on previous discussions with you, that includes journalistic source
protecting information, also people's phone numbers, conversations that I've had, emails that may have been sent between us,
I mean, because the reason I'm making that point, of course, is that some folk may not realise, but obviously News UK has a track record in the past of having handed over confidential sourcing to the police.
Yeah.
So was that part of your concern?
But first, this episode of Outspoken is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. And I'm very excited to say the heat has finally arrived overseas. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra in the white hot special edition colorway from Manscaped is now available across the UK, Europe, and Australia. It's the same trimmer trusted by millions of men, including me, now with a clean white and gold finish that looks just as smooth as it shaves. But this isn't just a pretty face. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is built to handle your most sensitive areas with care, helping reduce the risk of nicks, cuts, and irritation where it matters most. So whether you're cleaning things up for a day, to trip, or just to feel a little bit more put together, the white hot trimmer makes below-the-waist grooming a whole lot smoother. Literally. Join over 12 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and use the code Outspoken for 15% off your entire order at manscaped.com. And to the ladies in the Outspoken audience, trust me, this is a fail-safe gift for your boyfriend, your husband, your son, your brother, or your hard-to-buy-for male best mate. The blades are designed to glide over the skin with less tug and pull, helping the bloke in your life avoid the usual redness or irritation that comes with lower quality trimmers. It's simple, effective, and doesn't require a whole routine. Just pick it up, clean up what you need, and move on. Whether you're using it in the shower, on the go, or standing over the sink before a night out, the White Hot 5.0 Ultra fits into your day without getting in the way. Plus, the white and gold design actually looks good. You won't be hiding it in the bottom drawer anymore. White Hot looks, smooth results. The White Hot 5.0 Ultra brings the heat without cooking your skin. It's sleek, easy to use, and way less terrifying than whatever you were using before. Use the code Outspoken for 15% off your entire order at manscaped.com. That's 15% off with the code Outspoken at manscaped.com. But now, back to the show.
Well, I was at that particular moment, it wasn't, but it became part of my concern as we went on, because initially I was just a bit shocked that I was in shock anyway. I was kind of going, well, why would you want my phone overnight? I've just shown it to you. I've just shown you there's nothing on there. And it turns out, again, because I spoke to my my internet expert, and he said, well, because they're probably looking to see if you deleted it, because if you deleted anything, it would show that you deleted it. And I went, okay. So then we had a conversation around, well, how can we make this work for everybody so that everybody's happy? And because I'd said, I don't really think I want to give you my phone unconditionally, is there not some other way we can do it? And so then asked me to come back in for another meeting on the Wednesday, and this time with a member of the cyber security team, who also went through my phone and didn't find it, right? And then gave me some information about how I could protect myself. And I was kind of like, it's a bit late really, isn't it? But thank you very much indeed. So that was Wednesday. And then by Thursday, they'd come up with another plan, which was to have me sign a document which said, we'll take your phone overnight and your iPad. We'll give you another phone, and we'll mirror it, but we won't look at the bits we don't need to look at. And I kind of went, okay, well, that's fine, but how do I know that I can take your word for that? Because in the end, you'll have my entire phone.
You didn't trust them?
Well, I thought it was a bit of a risk. Let's put it that way, because frankly, I guess I was about to say between you and I, because this feels very cozy, but of course it's between you and I and a couple of
Hundreds of
million
thousands of others.
Thank you for watching, by the way. I thought, at the very least, there is some information in my phone that if the company that I worked for saw what it was, and I'm talking about confidential conversations with people that they might not like very much, they'd probably fire me anyway. That was kind of in my head, you know?
Yeah.
And just also on the whole principle of overreach and privacy, even if you weren't talking about confidential sources, if you weren't talking about, you know, private pictures or, you know, videos that you might have, any of that stuff, or, you know, my entire sort of, I don't know, internet history, which I'm sure they could probably get off it as well. So I said, look, if you don't mind, I'd still feel a bit uncomfortable. I think I might take some advice on this, because you're saying that you're going to give it to lawyers, so maybe I should talk to a lawyer. And so that's what I did.
And they said, hell no.
And they said,
don't be so ridiculous, Mike Graham.
Yeah, do not even think about it. They said there's absolutely no
And these
reason,
are heavy-hitting lawyers.
very
right?
heavy-hitting lawyers. There's no reason why they should be asking for it. You've already shown them the phone. And in fact, we sent, eventually, when the first lawyer's sort of email went, it said, you know, when you looked at Mike's phone in the office, that should have been the end of the matter, quite frankly. So there was the problem clearly was that they were in a bad place, because the people that had complained, obviously, have a lot of power inside the organisation. I think this is part of the problem with these huge media companies now, because they've got so many strands, they've got so many pieces to the jigsaw. You know, they've got the Wall Street Journal, they've got HarperCollins, they've got, you know,
the woke mind virus infiltrated the company.
Sport, yes, exactly. And so, I mean, for example, many people don't know this, but in years gone by, I mean, by the way, during lockdown, HarperCollins staff gone for about 18 months. You never saw them. I was going in every day, you know. Sometimes I was the only person in the office, you know. When they came back, they asked for my show not to be broadcast in the lift because it was so upsetting. I mean, I'm not joking. I mean, this is nothing against news, by the way. I'm just describing the work atmosphere. This is the culture.
This is the culture. By the way, Mike, lots of people are asking if we are live. We are live
right
now. This is broadcasting live right now. And I think what's really important is that our audience get to ask some questions to the Outspoken audience. And on that note, Mike, Ken Reed asks, why did you refuse to cooperate with the Talk investigation?
Well, that's not an easy question to answer, because one, I didn't refuse to cooperate, but I will tell you over the course of the next hour exactly where it all went, you know. And I think as soon as I enlisted the help of some lawyers, I think they took a different view and decided that we were now kind of, you know, their tone...
At war.
Yeah, I mean, their tone was always quite firm, but it sort of started to become slightly less friendly, shall we say, you know. And they kept moving the goalposts as well. So, you know, we basically tried to find a way that I would be happy with showing them stuff and that they would be happy with seeing stuff.
This has been a bit of a briefing war too.
Yeah.
Because it's only fair that you are able to respond to what News UK briefed about you, again to the Daily Express, which they headlined the bombshell real reason Mike Graham was axed from Talk TV. And this was a source at News UK telling the Daily Express Mike Graham had to go. He claimed that his phone had been hacked, but everyone was skeptical of that explanation. He claimed that someone had hacked his Facebook account, but also hacked his iCloud and posted the offensive statement. News UK bosses gave him the benefit of the doubt and told him that they would allow Mike and his legal representative to stand in a room with two forensic phone experts who would be able to go through his phone and figure out if he was actually hacked, who hacked the phone, and what else they accessed. While Mike initially agreed to submitting his phone, he didn't turn up on the agreed date and time. So News UK gave him another date, and again, Mike did not turn up. This happened 4 times. 4 times he refused to hand over his phone. So News UK took the decision to end their working relationship with him. Is that true?
Well, do you know what's interesting about that? It's partially true, but sort of a slight misrepresentation of what happened. But how would they know how many meetings there were? You know, these are conversations that were only going on between my lawyers, their lawyers, and me.
Well, I would say this was clearly brief. I mean, I know how these things work. This was clearly brief from the top at News UK. They wanted their side out there.
Right. Which is pretty unfortunate, really, because I think that was probably rather unfair because, again, to go through the whole kind of process. So we're now at the following Monday, which would be the 27th, I guess.
So you've been off air for 4 days at this
So
point.
I've now been off air for 4 days. And
People are starting to wonder at this point.
And not getting paid, by the way, right?
So what, they stopped your pay the moment they took you off?
Well, I only get paid per show.
Okay.
So when I'm not working, I don't get paid, you know? So, and I was starting to wonder where this is all going, you know? So they said... So when we went back to them and said, look, we're not comfortable handing the phone over to News UK lawyers, right? Because that was the law firm they wanted to give it to. We said, could we not agree on a sort of mutually independent person who could look at the phone? Would that be possible? And after a bit of toing and froing, they agreed that would be possible. So my side gave them 5 possible companies that they could use, and they rejected all of them.
All of them?
All of them. Yeah. And we're going, and my lawyers, who are very good, were saying, this is outrageous. You know, how can they reject all 5 of them out of hand? And instead they came up with yet another one that they wanted to appoint, who my cyber guy said, we've never heard of this guy. We don't know who he is. And we're not sure what qualification he has. And in fact, my lawyers at one point said, you know, the fact that he's possibly unqualified to look at this.
So you didn't trust the process?
But by this time, we were asking questions about the process, right? And so again, they said, we're going to need your iPad, and we're going to need your phone, and we're going to need it for approximately 9 hours. And there was no suggestion that I would be able to stand there and watch them, you know, because that would be a much shorter process. Because I later learned that in order to do this mirroring thing, you need a particular piece of software. It takes a little while to download the whole phone. And you have to basically go through every single thing that's connected. And so there was no question, obviously, of me standing around watching them for 4 or 5 hours. So
and you just weren't prepared to do it?
Well, until I was happy that they were only looking at certain things. And so I then decided maybe the best thing to do is for me to order a forensic investigation with an independent firm and see what they find, right? And so we went ahead with that. It took a couple of days. And then we told them that we'd done that. And we said, you know, would you be interested in having us send you the report that we have gleaned, which I've paid for, through a company that I had no connection with whatsoever, you know, completely independent, very well respected. And they kind of said, well, you know, we'll obviously be interested in any kind of information that you may wish to add, but we still want your phone. You know, it kept going back to, we still want your phone. And yes, they did. Then every time we'd go into a weekend, and because sometimes there'd be a couple of days before we'd get a reply, you know, which was part of the real drama of it, because, you know, I'd be sitting there going to my lawyers, you know, why they're not answering us?
So
what are they doing?
Stalemate.
It had become very much lawyers talking to lawyers, and you know what that can be like. You know, they've got this kind of, you know, big swinging dick contest going.
And at this point, had you sort of accepted I'm probably not going back?
Not quite, because I wasn't absolutely sure. It was very clear that they were in turmoil, because obviously there were people in the building who didn't want me to go, whereas there were also people in the building who did, for all sorts of reasons, you know, and maybe not this one. So it sort of, it ceased becoming about the post in the end, and it more became about how are we going to get out of this with any kind of credibility at all. And it started to occur to me that they can't get out of it without getting rid of me, because if they bring me back, you know what's going to happen. They're going to be watching me like a hawk. They might say, you can't be quite as outrageous as you used to be. We have to clip your wings a little bit. We might make sure that you don't go banging on about it, migrants all the time, you know, because we were doing migrants before anybody, you know, as it were. We were talking about how ridiculous it was before anybody. And, you know, when you went to GB News, obviously GB News, you know, picked up that, you know, our kind of model.
Talk right through 2020, we were doing it first without any doubt.
And you know, suddenly there was GB News as well, which we actually welcomed, even though some of us weren't that happy that some people went. I mean, we understood, obviously, nobody was unhappy that you went, because we thought, well, you're the star, so, you know. But there were some other people who went that we weren't quite so happy about. Anyway, I have to get out of the habit of saying we, don't I?
You
Because
do.
It's not.
It's
I'm
hard.
sorry. It is.
It's hard. I found that for a long time, Mike, because this
well, I was talking to a producer earlier, and I said, because they were asking about how it worked in terms of just the studio setup and everything. And I went, well, we didn't. And I was like, it's got to stop saying we.
It's sad. It's sad. Look, I think one of the reasons why people are so genuinely upset, and what a reaction this has had, is because I always say to people, look, if you'd cut Mike Graham open, he would have bled Talk TV. And it was a bit of the same with me at GB News. You would have cut me open, I would have bled GB News. We were very passionate. We were a big part of those companies becoming what they were. And so you like to think that you're going to get some sort of loyalty back. But of course, that isn't how the corporate media works.
It doesn't.
And you've realised that the hard way.
Yeah, I have. Absolutely.
And so things break down. And you end up getting a phone call from a senior executive at News UK. And by this point, the news is not good.
Well, actually, we sort of had to prompt them into it, though, because in the sort of weeks, I guess week 3 we're in now.
Because you were like, what, just do it?
Well, I was at the point where I'm saying to my lawyers, what's going on here? Surely they must have decided what they want to do. Surely they must know. If they don't believe me, which is going to be a shame, because I would have hoped that there was some level of trust, then they need to say so. So what happened was, I think we had sent them an email on the Thursday of week 3. Again, still trying to, because we'd sent them the report from the forensics by then, which, by the way, found no evidence of the post at all.
Really?
And which also found no evidence of the picture ever being in my cache.
So this is your own independent report, but it wasn't commissioned. It was commissioned by you, but it wasn't conducted by anyone connected to you. An independent investigation.
Independent investigation. I mean, I can't remember the name of the firm, but I've
so
got it.
So it didn't say that you'd been hacked, but it said there's no evidence of the post having been made, and there's no evidence of the picture being on your phone, the picture from the tube.
Yes, and no evidence of either of them being deleted either. I.e., that I didn't have them, so they were never there.
So you hoped that might change News UK's mind, but it didn't.
Well, I thought it gave them an opportunity, because in my view, I was kind of trying to see whether I could help them out by giving them a reason. Because they could have said at that point, look, we've seen this independent report. We're satisfied that, Mike certainly didn't do it. And so we're going to reinstate him. And most of our emails at that point were saying to them, when are you going to reinstate Mike? Because, it seems as though you don't have any evidence that he did it.
So when did you find out that wasn't going to happen?
Well, so we get to Thursday, and I think, again, having waited a couple of days to hear nothing at all, my lawyer sent them an email saying, look, we need to know why you're not reinstating Mike. Have you got a reason? Because it's now week 3. He's losing a significant amount of money. He's under enormous stress, independently, bizarrely.
Reputation being destroyed.
My reputation's under threat. Independently, by the way, I was also, because I have a cardiologist who looks after me, even though people always tell me that you have a fat heart attack waiting to happen, I'm actually quite healthy. So I had, in the middle of all of this, I had to go in and give some blood so they could test it, right?
Yeah.
And then I had to go and see the cardiologist. And I actually had to take a call from my lawyer in the cardiologist. And I was going, I'm a bit stressed out. And he was cool. And he said, well, actually, your blood's fine. You've got absolutely no problems. Your heart's fine. Blood pressure might be a bit high, but there's a reason for that. And I said at one point in initial conversations with them that I was, in the care of a cardiologist. And at one point, one of the emails said, we've got no intention of causing you any stress. I was like, really? Okay, then. So we basically sent them a note on the Thursday to say, look, can you please give us an explanation as to why this is taking so long and why you're not reinstating Mike? And if you're not, could you tell us why? Friday came and went. Nothing. I had the worst weekend, I think, of my life. I was down in Sussex with my family, and I was just bereft. I was just like, what's going on? And, how I can't afford not to work. I mean, they were paying me very well. And as I say, I wasn't expecting to be off for that long length of time. And people were saying to me, you've never been off this long from talk in your life. Because I used to kind of balk at going on holiday for more than 10 days. I used to, my family would be like, can we not go for 2 weeks? I'm like, no, I need to be back on the air, right?
You loved what you did.
I loved what I did. And let's face it, it's not, cracking rocks in the hot sun, I mean, it's actually very enjoyable and, it's not easy to do, but, you and I...
You loved your audience.
Yeah, and I felt a duty to them, actually, because one of the things that's really cheered me during this whole episode has been the people who remember what I did during lockdown, who remember how I got them through, who say, if it hadn't been for you, Mike, I think I'd have gone mad.
They're with you. And,
You know?
and they are still with you, and they are furious with talk, which obviously we'll come to. So that weekend passes, and then you get the phone call.
No. So Monday then comes and goes. Nothing. Right? Tuesday comes and goes. We get to 4:00 Tuesday.
Yeah.
Still nothing. Right? From Thursday. Not an answer. And I'm thinking, are they just going to stall me out until I have to resign or something like that? And that was suggested to me by some couple of people. So my lawyer rang me and he said, I think I'm just going to ring them up. He said, because they were getting fed up. He's like, I'm getting fed up with this. I'm just going to call them. And I'm going to ask them what's going on. And so as a result of that call, he was then told, we're going to decide in the next 24 hours. So the Tuesday was kind of like an interesting night, because at that point I thought, ooh, well, maybe they haven't decided yet then. So maybe it was like a sort of the cruelest twist of all, really, because it sort of gave me a thought that, well, maybe there is a way back.
Oh, I've been there.
And I'm thinking, but then you start doing all this other sort of mental gymnastics where you're going, well, do I really want to go back now? And what would it be like? And now that I've read this stuff in the Express about how they all hate me at Talk Sport, and I have to go through Virgin now, who are also on the same floor, who also loved me. You know, Chris Evans had become a good friend, you know, and he's been terrific to me. And I remember he came up to me once when I used to do the mid-morning show, and I'd never really spoken to him. And he went, "You're really good at this, aren't you?" And I said, "What?" He went, "Radio." And I was going, "You're Chris Evans. What do you mean I'm good at it?" I said, "You're pretty good at it too." But he was always really supportive, you know. So then I got the call around about 11:00 on Wednesday. Saying, we've decided we're not having you back. And by the way, funnily enough, I know that you keep saying I've been sacked, and you would assume that's correct. My lawyers say I haven't been sacked. They say that I've not been brought back, which is slightly different. I mean, I don't really care, but technically speaking...
Because you were not on a staff contract.
Well, no, I wasn't on a staff contract. I was on a contract of service, you know.
Yeah. Which they can end.
Which had already ended, funnily enough, because one of the things that they're not great at is renewing contracts. They always get about to do it, and it's sort of, they were talking about doing it, but it hadn't actually happened.
So it meant you can leave without them even paying you out?
But I mean, the contract is assumed to continue on the same terms as long as you keep working and they keep paying you.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.